Right. Shh. Hello, everybody. Now, is that not freaky?
That was freaky.
That was freaky. This place, there's no way you can set that up. That's just a thing. You've got to press a button and things go. I press the button, let it ended, come over here, woof.
That's it. What the hell is that?
Going to be great today. It's going to be great. Love you to do it again. Please. Jeepers. We're in a building here that used to be an old munitions factory. Acres and acres and acres. 6,000 people worked here, making shells and armaments. During the First World War, it was obvious when the war started that we didn't have enough factories just to keep our men fighting abroad armed. We didn't have enough shells for cannons. They made them here. Fascinating stories, how this building used to belong to another country. They gave it to another country. So incredible. But if you are a fan of all things dark and grisly, the mention of Jack the Ripper at any level is like, what? I'm in Birtley. This used to be the Royal Ordnance Factory. And it was created in 1915 just to make weapons to keep the British war machine going. So how the hell could it have anything to do with Jack the Ripper? And it does. Come with me. We'll show you. Now, we're in the darkness here, and we're doing the show earlier because we're inside and it's dark and we can set all of our traps. We've already had things happening. This is going to get suddenly incredibly bright. Whoa! Right, out you come. Now, as you can see, the building is still an old military-style building. You can see this has been a factory. The units are now being used by other people. But back during the First World War, 1915, it was set up. It was set up for wounded soldiers from Belgium and refugees from Belgium because the Germans had poured across their country. And all of the people that could make munitions in Belgium moved over here to make them for the British Army. Amazing. But I want you to have a look at this. And I know all of this looks creepy as hell, how that's grown through a fence. It's just, yeah. But it's that tunnel there. I don't know how best you can show that.
The circular one or the other one?
No, the other one. The square one.
Yeah, I can see it like not perfectly, but I've got it on camera.
Right. I'm taking you back to 1888. Now, this was the year of the Jack the Ripper murders. All of the newspapers across Britain had stories of Jack the Ripper tearing in to Catherine Eddowes and Mary and all the other women that he butchered. And then in 1888, a man called John Fish was employed by the railway line. It was his job to walk the railway, a certain area, once a week, covering all sides of the track to make sure no trees had fallen, make sure there was nothing on the line, tidy it up, make sure all the pebbles were smooth, there's no rocks on the line. He had to walk either side of the railway line. And John Fish got directly under that bridge there. Now, John Fish, just a railwayman, so he didn't have any axe to grind, but when he got under that tunnel there, he found the body of a woman, Jane Beadmore. Her body torn to pieces, literally, under that bridge. Her hands had been slashed with a knife, her throat was cut, her face had been stabbed on numerous occasions, her lower stomach had been ripped open. Now, her innards had been pulled out, and as she lay there, the intestines had been pulled out in a circle around the body. It's a working railway line. That's your Tesco home delivery right there. Not be long. Amazing, isn't it? To be this close. And it goes on forever. What? It's the longest train in the history of the world. And it's gone. So you've got John Fish, and there he is, finding this body, intestines set out, legs, thighs, abdomen ripped open, insides pulled out. Now, this is exactly the story of what happened to a lot of Jack the Ripper's victims. That's how they died. So instantly, the local newspapers here in the northeast all said, the Rippers moved to Tyneside. The Rippers in the north. And they believed that Jack the Ripper had actually got on the train, travelled up. There was a station just over there, Birtley Station. Trains don't stop there now, but they still obviously use the main line. So the newspapers believed Jack the Ripper's come north. There's one of the Ripper's victims under that bridge. They started trying to wonder who could have got off the train. Did the police have any suspects? Well, there was a man called Willie Waddle who was going out with Jane, and Jane, within the last month, had dumped him because he was a little bit of a brute. So she dumped him and said to her friends, oh, I'm not with him now. I'm with a man who's much nicer. Now, the police believed that that could have angered Willie Waddle, so they kept an eye on him. And they discovered in his lodgings, when they searched it, which they did illegally, by the way, they found a knife covered with blood that he said was just the knife he uses when he cooks meat. Now, back then, there was no such thing as DNA. The blood had been washed off. There was only residue left near the handle. However, eventually, they arrested Willie Waddle for the crime, and it's thought that he was so jealous when she'd found another man that he decided he would grab her, walk her down by the railway lines, which is one of the places where apparently they had secretly gone to make love. Not that I think this is hugely romantic. And slay the woman underneath the bridge, leave her body to be found looking like one of the bodies of the Ripper victims. He'd been reading about them for the whole year, so he copycatted. It's a common practice, sadly. So what happened to him? He's arrested by the police. He's taken to be hanged, and at the gallows, he was asked if he could, any last words, and he says, I don't know how, and it's like he never confessed all the while that he was in prison. But on the gallows, he says, I don't know how you caught me for killing her, which indirectly is completely admitting it. So anyway, he stood up, a black sack over his head, the noose around his neck, and the priest that was there said, may God have mercy on his soul. And just before the trapdoor opened, he actually fainted. And the vicar held him up just long enough for the trapdoor to open behind him. He was in a dead faint. And the vicar did this. It probably killed him quicker. Sent him down. He's swinging in the breeze. Amazing story. Linked directly to Jack the Ripper, which is even cooler. Same year. Right there, here in Birtley. Who would have thought? When I found out about it, and it was via a book that Charlotte Cornwell wrote, she found where else were people being ripped. And it seems that during the time of Jack the Ripper, there were a lot of copycats in various parts of Britain, which made it just harder to try and work out. We did work out who it was. We put a program together about Jack the Ripper, so we know who did it. We know who he was, but at the time, impossible to tell. You need modern forensic technology to do it. But a bridge just there, Jack the Ripper. Who'd have thought? Anyway, let's get in out of the beautiful twilight. So glad we actually managed to catch a train, because if they come the other way, they scare the pants off you, because it's like East Coast Main Line kind of thing. Anyway, we are in here, hopefully. Yes, we are. In you come again. And let's get our host to tell us a story or two. Whoa. Right. I'll just go and grab them. Tony, check out this place. See what we get.
Well, this is the smallest of the rooms. It's a huge warehouse when we get out there. We're just waiting on people leaving, that's all. So we should be able to get in the rest of the building.
Kenny,
soon.
Can we? Yes, absolutely, but you have to do it now, because you're being filmed, be aware. So just grab them and quickly grab them, and out you go.
Don't you go in that there on the side.
That's all right, yeah, you just stay out there. Okay.
Thank you very much.
That's all right, thanks a lot, ladies. Take care. That's nice. Not just all the girls needed their shoes because they're heading home.
There's our mic to clip on.
Oh, right. Right. Lynn should be coming. Head over here, Lynn. Thank you very much. Grab a seat on the comfy seat, and if you don't mind, I'll clag this on you so we can hear every word you say. Right. Now, Tony, if you could just swing around before we talk to Lynn, we might as well welcome everybody that's here. Hollywood McShane behind the camera. We've got Rob, who was telling us about this place. His dad used to work at the Royal Ordnance. He's not Belgian, but his granddad, I beg your pardon, his step-granddad, used to work at the ROF factory. So we'll hear some of his stories later. We've got Kenny here too. Now, totally unknown to you, we've already had our first ghostly bits and pieces in here. Right. There's a machine over there that when you press, plays like kidsy little tunes. Now, while we were in here, I pressed it and it played a tune, it ended, and then we started doing the introduction to the show. And during the introduction, it came on, played another bit of tune. This is long after it finished. And then just as I was saying, that's amazing, it's just done that, it played another little bit. So that's a wonder watch, this guy. But anyway, I'm here with Lynn. Hello, Lynn.
Hello.
Thank you very much for letting us invade your space, because you're queen of all you survey here. It's an amazing space, and you've done an amazing job of transforming what was a ruinous old building into something very special. 400 people already, and everything for anybody that needs a gym here. It's fantastic. But when I was talking to you earlier, I got just a whole range of ghost stories. Now, before we even get onto this place, you had an experience in hospital.
Yeah.
Where you physically saw 3 spirits, and one of them linked to this place.
Yes.
Tell us a story.
It was one of our parents, very dear friend. She did everything for the gym. She was part of the gym.
Right.
And unfortunately, she got cancer and died.
Right.
Just before the first lockdown.
Right.
And then in between the second lockdown and the first lockdown,
Yeah.
I was rushed into hospital with diverticulitis.
Oh, blimey.
And I had to have a stoma. And I was really poorly, and I'm lying in bed thinking, this is it, I'm not going to see my family anymore.
Because you got to remember, this is a time when even your nearest and dearest were not allowed into hospital. So you were literally totally on your own.
Yeah, I was put in the ambulance, the doors shut, and that was the last time I saw my husband.
Jeebus.
So I'm lying in bed, and the curtain kind of moved, and June popped her head round the corner.
Now, June had been dead how long by that point?
She died in the February, and this was September.
Right, so she'd been dead 6-7 months, and all of a sudden you saw her clearly
Clearly.
and solidly.
Yeah, it was like she was coming through the curtain, and she
Were you high on drugs?
I had morphine. I did have morphine.
Because that could be it.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. Tell them what happened though, because it wasn't just June.
No, she'd sort of like came in and she'd smile like she did. She was always smiling. She said, "You never guess who I found." And as she said that, my mum and dad came through, who'd died.
Did they look their age when they passed, or did they look younger?
They looked the age when they passed.
Right.
Yeah. And my mum was smiling. They never said a thing. My mum and dad were just there. And she says, "I've found them and I'm looking after them, and you get yourself better."
Because if you see your relatives suddenly coming to you and
Oh,
you're in
God,
hospital,
I
you
thought,
think
yeah.
you're going to die.
I thought, this is it.
They're
They've come
taking
for
your
us.
hand and they're going to march you back to the light, so to speak. But that was one. Now, the June thing's interesting because
Yep.
you've named the cafe after June. She did say that you always had to remember her.
The day before she died, I went, 2 days before she died, I went in to see her.
Right.
And she said, we were by ourselves, and she said, "Lynn, can you do me a favour?" And I said, "If I can."
Right.
She says, "Will you not let the gym forget me?" And I said, "Over my dead body, you will always be at that gym."
Right.
And so we did various things. She was always in the cafe. She always sat on the stool in the cafe, and she was always there. She did everything. She did the fundraising along with another colleague.
So June's Cafe became
June's
Cafe. So even what we're doing here is a continual reminder of June.
I mean, we've got our presentation coming up at the weekend, and June always had something to do with it.
Right.
And we've got a trophy, which we call the June McKenna Award.
Well, there you go. So she's there,
So
but
she's not forgotten.
You've seen her here.
Yeah.
You've seen others here, though.
I haven't actually physically seen June.
No.
We had ghost hunters, and they had that little video camera thing.
She called it SLS, where you see a little matchstick.
Little matchstick.
Little matchstick, man.
And the last day June was in, she was sat in a chair. And it was that chair where this little stick
It's all
thing.
good, but you were up doing some jiggery pokery up on some ladders or whatever.
When we first came in, I was the first person to see
Bob.
Bob. We called him Bob because we didn't know his name. We still don't.
Right.
And I was up on the top of the scaffolding, and my husband was, which I thought was underneath the scaffolding, and I said, "Callan, throw me up that spanner that I'd dropped."
Right.
And he went, "What are you talking about?" And when I turned round, my husband was right at the other end of the hall.
But some figure had walked
Some
past
figure had walked underneath the scaffolding, like past the scaffolding.
and there was nobody else.
So I looked down, there was nothing there.
Right. So you've had your moments. Is there any hint of negative that you've picked up here? Has it all been relatively positive?
The only negative thing was when we first opened, we had one of our gymnasts. It was the very first national competition that she'd gotten picked for.
Right.
And she was the only one. And the Thursday night before we were due to travel on the Friday, she went down the track, did a simple round off, and her arm was like Harry Potter. It was just all
In bits.
In bits. She'd broken the tibia and the fibia
Jeebus.
and dislocated her elbow.
Right.
And for a round off, it was, how the
awful.
hell's that happened? When we had Suzanne Gill, she'd actually told the ghost off and screamed and shouted. It was kind of eerie,
Yeah.
And she went, "Don't you dare harm another gymnast."
Right.
And that made me think, had that happened?
So all we can say is that's Lynn's experiences. Has there been anything else more vivid, or is that pretty much the...
I've got an office and I've got windows, so I can see virtually all the way around.
Yeah.
And very often I see a figure pass and I get up to see who it is, and there's nobody there.
Right.
When we had our official opening, there was a little toddler. We were marching past the window, and I looked and I saw a figure walk past the window, and I thought, "Oh, who's that?" And as I got to the door, there was nothing there.
Right.
Apart from the little lad had said, "I don't like him." And his mum said, "Who?" "That daddy man," at the door. And I looked at the mum and I said, Daddy, man. She says, oh, that's what he calls men.
Right.
And so I said, where was he? And he said, he's standing at the door. I don't like him. He's staring at me. And I'd said to the mum, I've just seen something pass.
Right.
And we called him Bob, like I said. And I told her the tale of how I'd on several occasions, I'd seen this figure.
Yep.
And it wasn't until, I thought I was going insane, there wasn't until months after, my daughter came up to me and she said, Mum, I've seen Bob. And I went, you've seen him?
So this is, but common practice, others have seen him too. And
yeah.
we were talking to some of the little young lasses that are gymnasts that are here. And obviously we want them on camera because they're gymnasts doing their thing. We didn't want to disturb them in any shape or form. But even the little one, have you seen anything here? And even the little girl says, oh yeah, we've had a sleepover here and we saw this man. And it's not like, we've seen it. It's like, they're here, so, oh, you just heard a bang next door. There's nobody in here. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So it's so commonplace here that kind
the
of
last sleepover we had, the kids had come in and they went, oh, we've just seen Bob.
Right.
And I said, where? And it said he just came in. And because it was winter, I'd put a chair next to the fire.
Right.
Because we've got a log burning stove.
Right,
and she said he was sitting on the fire, sitting on the seat next to the fire.
Getting warm.
And they weren't scared, you know. He did nothing that would upset them.
Sure.
So we don't know.
Right. Now, Lynn's now this is for us and also for you. Lynn's now going to sit in the office for the next couple of hours. And we're going to be allowed to run rampant. If you could just make sure everything's switched off, Lynn, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And we'll get started from now. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Give me one of them.
Thank you.
I'm old school. Thank you kindly, and we'll give you a knock as soon as we're done.
Yeah, no
Lovely.
problem.
Thank you kindly. So, what we want to do here, because there's so much. Oh, we need the mic, sorry. Otherwise, just in case you go to the loo, we don't want to hear that. Okay. That's lovely. Thanks a lot. Sorry, Tony, that's back for you. Right, so what we want to do is put our various cast in various places. Now, your step-granddad, because I kept saying it was your dad, but it was your step-granddad, worked here, but in the 1950s, which was long after the period where we think most of the ghostly Habnabs laid itself here or stained the building. Did he have any stories?
Nothing paranormal.
Right.
He worked here for maybe 4 to 5 years.
Right.
Originally, he was a butcher in County Durham.
Right.
The shop wasn't doing well, so he had to find something else to do for work.
Uh-huh.
Ended up getting a job in a factory. He absolutely hated it. It wasn't his trade. Dreaded coming here. Every day, just hated the place and couldn't wait to get out.
This place, a lot of people that I've spoken to about the ROF factory said it always had a dark atmosphere. It always felt almost threatening when you came in. Now, I mentioned before that this place belonged to Belgium. This was a Belgian community. 6,000 Belgians lived and worked here, all men, 288 female staff, British, helping them order all of the metals that they would need to make shells, the explosives and such. But 6,000 Belgians, they built houses, shacks, hostels for 6,000 people. Some of them with their wives and family, some of them wounded soldiers from the First World War, because this was 1915. There's one character who we have to look out for, and it's a man called Norris de Vries. Now, Norris fought on the Somme, and an explosion, a shell explosion, which is ironic because he ended up working for a place that made the shells that blew both his legs off. Norris was on a little trolley, a little wheeled trolley, and he cleaned up all the swarf, the sharp metal cuttings that come off pieces of metal when you work them. Now, being a typical Geordie place, his nickname was Nene. Norris, because Norris is not like a great name. So Nene, they called him. However, when the Geordies working, and very few of them, but they were here, heard that his name was Nene, they called him Nenes, because he had he didn't have any knees, so they called him Nenes, and he cleaned the floor because he was down on the floor. Amazing. So we've got to look for him tonight. There's been murders and rapes by one of the people that worked here. There's been a suicide There's a lot of very cool stories about this neck of the woods, including a man who died after catching syphilis, but that's a Lynn story. We'll have to get that. And there's a train going by.
What's that music as well?
Well, I can hear drilling, but I presume it's from another unit. Yeah, that's drilling, I think. We've got to look out for... I tell you what, let's press a button. Now, I did this the last time. All I did was press a button. Because I think that's creepy.
It is.
Let it do its thing and then let it stop. We will, pet. There you go. Now, if there's anybody here, can you do something else? Press the button. Can you do it again, please? One more, just to be sure. One more.
That is crazy. Who needs an necromancer? That is crazy. Is that a drill?
That's a drill in a unit next door. I'm fairly sure. Any more?
Oh. Wow, that's like every time you've asked it, it's done it.
Any more? Sing a happy song. That's 4.
Wow. All on cue, to be fair.
Right. Now, I know it's still a little lit through here, but it doesn't seem to matter.
I've already done that. I've just done that.
Thank you.
Before, and so, right, I'll keep that steady because it was moving before, wasn't it, Rob?
You saw that moving before?
Well, it was moving, and I said, he touched that, and then it just started again by itself. So I went, right, I'm going to steady this, keep it in one place so it's not moving, because I think it moves later on.
Yes, and catwalk moving as well.
Yeah, they've been going on.
But what we should do, I think, is let everybody take a look at this place, because you've got to try and imagine it full of industrial machines, because they're making shells. They're putting them on trolleys so they could move them around and get them onto trains at Birtley Station to be moved left and right, and also supply the tanks at Vickers Armstrong's. They did panel work for them too. We're going into all of the little dark offices up ahead. So you can see how big this place is. We can set people in 2 or 3 different corners. It is literally so big. What's through the mirror? Is that just mirrors, Kenny?
Mirrors, yeah.
You see, now you quite often see spirit more clearly in reflection. So that might be great. And if we get any more, I think we've already got stuff. I mean, you cannot argue with that. If we get any more, we're all going in the ball pool. Yeah. Okay? Who wouldn't want to play here? This is wild. This, as the sun starts to go down, this could be very interesting. You feel it sprung in it. When you feel it,
Oh, that there, yeah.
it's... Say again? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, quotations. No, fantastic. Oh.
What do you hear?
It's making like a clinking sound.
What was that?
This beam here, but then the train went past like 5 seconds later, but this was making like a clinking sound.
Before the train?
At least 5 seconds before the train.
Well, that's good. The more we get, the better. We know that the people have been working out on various apparatus, and they've seen people walking by. And there was a video that somebody got where a Ouija board tipped upside down when there was nobody actually using it.
Yeah, it was in the cafe bit next door. It was like resting up against the table.
Well, we're going in that direction now.
Flips.
Well, we're going to set a few traps as well, Ken. We need to be looking for whatever we can do, and if we're successful, that's where we're going. That's this bit here is, it's our treat. If we get a good show tonight, we're getting in there. Right. Thank you. Can we shut you in?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Just push the door towards the cupboard. No.
Oh, towards the cupboard? Got it. Thank you, sweetheart. That's lovely. Right. You're leaving one there? Right. So through here, this is where we're having it as our place of safety.
This is where it all happened, though, as well.
This is where most of it has happened. There's a kitchen unit here. I've set a few bits and pieces out.
2 batteries have drowned and died already.
2 batteries already.
Yeah, for the GoPro.
Right, well, I'm going to put this somewhere far enough away for it not to go off. It will go off while we're... Oh, look at this. Tony. Look. Look, it's rolling. Tony, quickly.
I've got on this one.
Look.
Oh.
No, it's still going. What the hell? Look, and it's come back on again. That's ridiculous.
It's like against the laws of physics.
It is, isn't it?
That is just bizarre. Did you hear that?
I heard that.
That was directly behind you as well.
You got Ted as well.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to leave this here, so guys, get back and...
I'll put this one next to Ted. I'll put this one next to Ted.
That was silly. Because that ran for a while, that. I'm also going to put, just on the end of here, move the costumes to one place, and I can hopefully... What is? That rope.
Look at it. It's moving a little.
Oh, whoa.
I said before, move this if you're...
We're not going to be able to catch that on the camera. You have to go down.
I'll get it.
Good, get it with your camera. I'll do that.
Yeah,
I'll do
there
it.
you
Go for it.
I'll put this across actually. I said before, move this if you're ready.
Just looking for somewhere else to put another. Got one there. Maybe do a second one here too. There you go. See if we get anything moving there. See what other traps we can set. There's a brand new battery in this. So what I thought I would do with it is just put it in the conference room as a something to light the thing up. Right. Does that do the job?
We can see just as what we could, because with this light on, when I shine it
Can
in,
you?
it's the same.
Okay. No worries. Got it. I was going to set up, there's so many things in various places, even the position of the biscuit in a bottle. Are they still going to be there? Are they going to move? Because people have seen stuff moving and people moving here.
In that bit. What about the necromancer?
Absolutely.
I've not used that yet.
Is it, yeah, it was like a square, but this was it, wasn't it?
It's found here, yeah.
Right, well, let's do it. Oh, Kenny. I'll put him over yonder, just on the edge there. Right, well, let's put the amp on. that him? Anybody there called Bob? Bob? Do you hear that? He said Bob. Like that. Said Bob.
The thing is, that's like his nickname.
Yeah, absolutely. It's how they know him.
Yeah.
So he'd respond to the name that people call him. Yeah. I've got countless stories that we'll share with you.
That was me.
Oh, Tony, man. I thought he was just right behind you.
So, for the next moment, Kenny, in there, if I can ask you, can you go in the dark room?
Wait.
The room where we just started?
Yeah.
Great. Get right to the far end, Kenny. In fact, what I'm going to do is shut you in. You don't need a torch or anything, and you see enough. Oh, Teddy's gone.
I think he took him.
Kenny, you're locked in. You could probably open it, but I can't. Do you want to open it? Do you want to open it? I think I've locked it. Can you open the top one? That's all right then. Do you want to put the snack on? Or just leave it close to? Kenny's locked in. Let's see what we get. We're good for a little wander. Oh. Normally you get it before that.
The chair's probably in the way of the sensor. But then if you open it up, every time we pass it will go off.
All right, that's probably a good idea then. We also need some SLS business as well.
Yeah, I got something in the little grey room when you were chatting.
Did you?
In the corner, so...
Wow. Come on. Oh, look. Rope.
You can't really see on here.
Go. Just...
Yeah.
Can you see it? You must be able to see that.
Definitely moving.
No, we're nowhere near it. And that's a solid beam. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Is there anyone here? Talk to me. This is your home, Bob.
No.
I know. Cheeky. Talk to us. What did you think about the Germans? Do you have voices there? Tony, is that moving?
It does look like it is a bit.
Come on, Bob, if you're here. I see you moving the rope. Come on, Bob. If you're here, Bob. Show yourself. Move something. Do something. Come on. If there's anything here. Come on. Move something. Move something. Sometimes it's easier when you can just hear. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
Come on, talk to us. Talk to us. Any kind of noise. Come on. You know, we talked about what this used to be, and I know it's a modern gym, and it's like a tot-friendly gym, which is lovely, so you can get the young people to come through and become British gymnasts. We got some champion gymnasts coming out of here. They're in the national championships, amazing. But as a factory, this place had it all. It had its own Belgian market. It was given to the Belgian government. It had its own police station. And the police were gendarmes right here. It had a pig farm. It had a chicken farm. It had a cinema. It had its own symphony orchestra. And these were all people who had escaped from Belgium at a time when Belgium was the Somme and Ypres and all those other horrific battlefields. Passchendaele, horrific. Belgium was a battlefield, more so than it ever was at the time of Waterloo. So all of these Belgian people gathered together. Elizabethville, Elizabethtown, various names given to this area, named after the Queen of Belgium at the time, Queen Elizabeth. And it belonged to Belgium until the end of the war, when they were all repatriated back to their homeland after the Allies eventually became successful after the most bloody war that the world had ever seen up to that point. And there's a story that's quite a juicy one about a man called Wim van Himpst. Now, when people were being sent over here, a lot of them were munitions experts, but obviously you had to get them out of Belgium before the Germans got their hands on them, otherwise they'd have used them to make shells. And because we weren't expecting a war that burst out because of Gavrilo Princip shooting the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and it all kicked off, we were short of equipment, we were short of shells, we were short of munitions. So they built this place in 1915, and then all the Belgians were brought across. And a Belgian colony belonging to Belgium existed right here in the northeast. It belonged to Belgium. Amazing that we would, but we did. And this guy, Wim van Himpst, now, a description of the man and his talents was sent across to be chosen by Belgians who were building the factory. And Wim van Himpst was a man in excess of 6 foot, in his 50s, an experienced munitions worker. When the man called Wim van Himst arrived here, he was 5'7", balding, and he was in his 30s. Now, they put that down to shoddy paperwork because the war was on and you couldn't get information across the channel. I get that, but there was a lot of difference between the man they were expecting and the man that they got. Over the next 1 year, 9 months, there were 4 rape murders, 2 in Aladdin, which is just along the road, and 2 here in Birtley, near to where the RAF factory was. There were dozens of other rapes. And the only thing that all of the victims had in common, they had been out or spent time in local pubs with a man called Wim van Himst, this 30-year-old balding little guy. Now, eventually, the police from outside, the British police, came to the gendarmerie here in Little Belgium, the Birtley Belgians, and asked the gendarmerie, can you look into this? We think one of your guys has been raping people and killing them. And they'd all been killed the same way, and it was a screwdriver in the throat. Raped, finished off. The Belgians, very proud people. And when they heard that one of theirs, the finger was being pointed at this man called Wim, who knew all of the victims, not just the 4 that were killed, but some of the other girls that had been raped. 3 of them had said he was Belgian and described this small, balding man. They all fingers pointed to Wim van Himst. Did you hear that?
I can hear something.
It's a noise beside where the rope is.
Like a flickering.
There was a one behind you as well. Be interesting if Wim was here. Wim? Make a noise, Wim, if you're here. Wim van Himst. Wim?
Oh God, it's like a growl.
Did you hear that? So anyway, a lot of the Belgian workers knew Van Himst did it, had done it rather. Because he'd said things to them. They had a big kitchen area where you could get meals at reduced cost every day, just to keep the munitions pumping out. And when, did you hear that?
That could have been the camera turned on.
Really? Okay.
If it was an electronic sound.
I thought it was a tinkly sound, but I'll take your word for it. Was that it?
Yes.
Yeah. While he was dining, Van Himst apparently had said to a few of the other Belgians, oh, I'll sleep with as many of these British women as I can. They're easy. They're easier than Belgian women. Well, they're easier if you rape them. The other Belgians knew it was him. And then one day in December, literally just before Christmas of 1915, there was a tragic accident. A man had found himself inside one of the stamping machines that stamped out the shells. And it had stamped him 3 times, twice on the back, literally pushing a shell-shaped piece of metal through his entire body, here, here, and here. And the man trapped in the machine was whoever he really was, but the man using the name Wim van Himst. So if his spirit is anywhere, it could well be in this neck of the woods. If you're anywhere here, Wim, that's a train going by. Wim, make some noise for us. Make some noise. Anything you wish.
It's time to split our stream as well at some point.
Oh, really? Already? We're going to check on the people that we've placed. We're going to use the rods as well very, very soon. We would love you to stay with us. If you did and you subscribe and you become one of our supporters, you get a couple of years worth of ghost hunts and all the extra little bits that we do. Tony, how do they do that?
Yeah, on Facebook there's a little link in the video description, and just hit that, become a supporter or a subscriber, and there's your videos. And on YouTube, just join the channel and all your part 2s will be there for
all the part 2s. We're going straight into a part 2. We would love you to come with us. Got a lot more stories to tell. We'd love you to share. Let's see what the guys have got. Let's head across there.